Hello, Abraham. I have two questions. First one, I am being asked, guided even, to mediate, act as a negotiator, and neutralize a situation on my husband's side of the family. And I want to do the right thing with integrity. And it involves two cousins and their deceased mother's estate. There's a son and a daughter. The daughter has multiple personality disorder, and the son has control in some way of his sister's side of the money, because if she gets all that money, she will spend it. And the mother, who's deceased, decided this is the way it should be, and it's been very, very difficult for many people to deal with the daughter with these personality issues that she has. And I guess I'm looking for some guidance in how I need to move forward. There has been a lot of talk on that side of the family that she may have entities. And I know somebody, my husband's aunt, that could help, possibly help the daughter. And I've talked to her about it, and she doesn't know that this person could come and see her and maybe help her release these entities. I've told her that this person has abilities to help on a spiritual level. And I need to know how honest I should be with what this person does and who is paying for it. Essentially, her brother's paying for it. If she knows that her brother's paying for it, she may not do it.
Well, it's an interesting thing. As you're interacting with us here, would you like Esther to release her entities?
No, ma'am.
Do you understand that there is no assertion? In other words, there is not a frivolous country club of non-physical energies that are looking for unsuspecting people that they can then inspire to irrational thought. Everything is coming by virtue of law of attraction. And so to say, I have a process by which you can release these entities, is to say, I can help you to achieve a different vibration so that this will no longer be your point of attraction. And something like that is not going to happen in a very quick span of time, because she did not get to that point of vibrational alignment in a very quick span of time. We are enjoying the unfolding of this conversation here today, because we are just talking about the uncommon thought being a very satisfying, freewheeling point of focus. And we were talking about how society really likes the idea of conforming. In other words, society likes to describe how you should behave. And society, whoever society is, a whole lot of different people that got together and decided that it should be that way, is happier with you when you conform. And the less willing you are to conform, then the more likely they are to label you renegade or inappropriate in some way. When there is an unusual approach to life being experienced by someone, and a single person or a body of people focus upon that person and dare or are bold enough to say, you are inappropriate because you don't meet our standards, what inevitably happens is they just become more inappropriate because they resent the idea of the standards to begin with. On some level, they begin an attempt at conforming, while an inward part of them says, never, 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 never will I conform. So out pops another personality, a not conforming personality. This personality conforms in this way, and this one does in this way, but there's an eternal eruption of yet another rebellious personality, because at the heart of this being is someone who truly, truly knows that they get to be the boss of them, that they get to choose what they think and how they feel. And there is this deep-seated resentment of anybody that is going to try to boss them around. All of your children are born like this. You spend quite a bit of time sort of soothing that, trying to soothe that out of them. We think that the reason that you have been chosen as the mediator is because it is obvious to anyone who's around you that you easily put the best intentions or the best benefit of others first. In other words, you are seen to be a very fair-minded person. You take sides, but not unfairly. In other words, you are seen to be level-headed, and we think it is a wonderful compliment that the people who are aware of this big mess are sort of looking to you to mediate it. We think that they have made a very good choice with you. And we think that the power of soothing that you will have here is in the diminishing of the freakiness of this young woman rather than an enhancing of your sense of the freakiness of this woman. Anytime you try to give anybody the benefit of them being in a good place, it is beneficial to them. And anytime you try to point out to somebody that they're not in a good place, it is detrimental to them. There is no exception to that. Don't ask for conformity of this young woman. And don't label her inappropriate because she is not. And as you acknowledge the value of that which she is and activate that within you, then you will serve as a catalyst to activate more of that within her. Imagine what it must be like to have people look at you and immediately activate the part of you that they most don't like. Haven't you had the experience where you behaved in a way that was not like you and you just didn't know what came over you? And we say, we know what came over you. Their negative influence came over you. Their negative expectation came over you. Sometimes you just can't buck their current, you see. So much of what this young woman hates is tied through this money and through the giver of this money. In other words, it's all sort of in a jumble together. And if we were the mediator of all of this, we would say, this is her money and it is her money to do with as she pleases and everybody else should get out of it. But of course, nobody else is going to want to get out of it because they want to keep beating the drum. She doesn't know what she's doing. She will squander the money. She will waste the money. And most importantly, she will ultimately become our burden. That is the dominant vibration that is within there. And her attitude is, you don't have to wait for me to become your burden. I'll be your burden now.
I so get that. It's been tough because she understands, like the gentleman a little while earlier about the labeling. She's been given the labels, she's accepted the labels, she's gotten the drugs. And both of these siblings are getting supposedly guidance from their mother. Both of them are getting that they need to fight each other. And I don't think it's beneficial to continue that way.
Well, it's not the guidance that's coming forth from their mother, but it is the sort of thought form that was left. In other words, she expected them to fight over the money. She expected it to be a problem. And even though she made efforts to try to keep it from being an issue, she always worried that it would be. And it doesn't need to be. In other words, if we were standing in your physical shoes and we had been given the label of mediator, we would say, you both are entitled. We would say, since the giver of this money had these intentions, then maybe that is the best thing to honor. In other words, it is usually the way it goes with dollars. But what do you think? The brother, do you think that he is getting any sort of satisfaction out of continuing to have control of this girl?
Yes. Until recently, he was co-trustee. He is trying to go to court to release himself of the co-trusteeship and try to get a bank or a trust company to take it over. Nobody wants it. It's been very difficult to find somebody to take this situation on. And July 7th is the big court date. And the daughter wants to be co-trustee, and no one will take it on if she wants to be co-trustee of her money. They want to be sole trustee of her money. And yes, there is the fear that she will squander this money.
Because no one wants to interact with her?
Yes.
They're not wanting the grief of trying to control her?
She's very demanding.
Why not make her the sole trustee of the money?
It's not the way the will was set up. You'd have to get a judge to dissolve it.
And is everyone in agreement with that? In other words, no one wants it, so why would the judge not agree with that?
Maybe he will.
We think he will, but we think that there are other ulterior motives. We think that there are other things that others are wanting. if we were standing in any of your physical shoes, we would try to play it out in the best possible scenario. In other words, if I could have anything, what would I have? I would want free of interaction. I would want no strings attached to this situation. I would want to hold no arbitration relative to where any of the dollars go. I would want the dollars to enhance the experience of the woman receiving them. I would like her to feel freedom that she's always reached for. I would like her to realize that it was a blessing that was left by her mother and an ultimate sanction of her belief in her well-being. Anytime you're trying to figure out how you can be of greatest value to someone else, try to figure out how you would like to feel in the same situation. And how would you like it if someone was saying to you, you do not have the ability to manage this, and you do not have the ability to know, and therefore someone else should take care of it. You would kick and scream and throw a little fit yourself. Anyone would. So we would say, give it to her. Let her have the freedom of it, and let her be the creator of her own experience, and trust that she will do just fine. And when fears come up that say, but what if she doesn't do just fine? We say, how can it be any worse? In other words, what difference could it possibly make? The only difference is it would be causing all of you less grief, you see. She's going to be who she's going to be. That's not the question here. You're not talking about whether she's going to change her personality or not. That's not going to happen all of a sudden. You're not going to change how she feels about you. That's not going to happen all of a sudden. You're not going to change anything except your releasing of your grief relative to the subject, and we think that's worth everything, you see. And meanwhile, we would expect her to be a little less crazy than everybody has decided that she already is, because there are many things about her that are right on track. And we think that the dominant reason for the upheaval is because there's been so much external control placed upon her. And we think that any of you would be responding in much the same way if you'd been standing in her shoes.
That's fair. Thank you very much.
Yes, indeed.
As a creative person, I live a lot in my thoughts, and I think any creative type individuals like actors or visual artists, we dream and we put our thoughts and our feelings and our desires out there. Now,
Why?
To experience them.
Because it's fun.
It's fun. Oh, it's thoroughly enjoyable. Now, sometimes I want to put my thoughts out there and experience something, but I sure don't want it to manifest. I like to try on hats. It's like going to a store and, let me try this hat, but it's not me. It's not what I really want in my life, but I want to try it on all the same. So this 17-second thing kind of worries me a little bit.
Well, the question that we have for you is, if you are taking pleasure in the vision of something, then it could not be that you would not take pleasure in the manifesting of something.
Well, okay, well, I'll give you a specific. What about a sexual fantasy? When, say, you're married and you have a fantasy about somebody else, but you don't really want a somebody else. You're just thinking about it, and gee, wouldn't that be fun? But you enjoy your spouse, and you have all sorts of fun with them. But it's just nice to go there and try that on for, a little bit.
Here is something worth contemplating. The fact that you are going there in your mind means you have vibrationally gone there. In other words, there is not enough difference worth talking about whether you went there in your mind or whether you went there. Now, we understand that there is a difference in terms of the way most of your physical world would approach it. But what we are saying to you is, if vibrationally you are taking pleasure from a thought, you would not find yourself not taking pleasure from the action. And what you're saying is, yes, but there are so many other reasons that I'm not wanting to do that. And so then we would say that 17 seconds has a reason to concern you.
Oh, I need a stopwatch.
You get the point.
Yes, I do. Thank you very much.
Yes, indeed.